Welcome to the Endo Kids Podcast, the podcast where we help families navigate the ups and downs and in-betweens of growing up healthy. I'm Dr. Rinku Mehra, the founder of Endo Kids Concierge and a pediatric endocrinologist, and my co-host is Dr. Lindsay Waldman, who is also a board-certified pediatric endocrinologist. We are here to break down the science of hormones, share real stories, and answer the questions parents wonder about the most. So whether you're worried about growth, puberty, thyroid, or just want to understand your child's development a little bit better, you're in the right place. We believe every family deserves answers, support, and a caring partner in their health journey. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's tackle this topic together today. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Please consult your child's healthcare provider for individualized care. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Endo Kids Podcast. I'm Dr. Mehra, pediatric endocrinologist and founder of Endo Kids Concierge, and I have today with me Dr. Waldman. And today's episode is one that I honestly think every parent of a teenage boy needs to hear, because there is a growing trend happening right now that most parents are completely unaware of. And it has to do with what teen boys are actually taking to change their bodies. So, Dr. Waldman, I'm excited to talk to you about this because this is a topic that I honestly did not know much about. And I have a teenage son, and I'm very interested in talking to you about this.
Thank you so much for having me. And I agree. This is something we're seeing more and more. And it's often completely under the radar for families.
Yeah, we're going to talk about something called Looksmaxxing and what that actually means. And then we're going to get very specific about what these boys are buying, where they're getting it, what it does to their hormones, and what parents should be looking for. So let's talk a little bit about Looksmaxxing. Dr. Waldman, what is it?
Looksmaxxing is basically the idea that you should optimize your appearance as much as possible. And for boys, that usually means building muscle quickly, getting very lean, and looking more traditionally masculine.
And the key difference now is that this is not just about working out or eating healthy, right?
Exactly. And that to me is the very, very scary part. It's about accelerating the process. So instead of saying, I'll work out for a few years, the mindset is, what can I take there to get there faster? And that's where all of these substances come in.
So the next question really is, where are they getting it? So let's talk about access, because I think parents assume this would be very hard to get.
Unfortunately, it's very easy to get. A lot of this, well, I would say basically all of it, is coming from websites that sell what are called research chemicals. These are online stores where you can buy substances labeled as not for human consumption, but they're very clearly marketed towards people trying to build muscle or lose fat.
And so are these just shipped to your house?
Unfortunately, yes. No prescription, no verification necessary. Just shipped directly to your house. And then, of course, there's the social media aspect like TikTok, Reddit, Discord. Boys are watching videos, getting recommendations, and then being directed to these specific sites or even private sellers.
So this is not hidden. It's actually very accessible for these boys.
It is out there. And again, no prescriptions needed, no verification, no oversight. You can just put in your credit card number and have it come directly to your house.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's start with the most common thing we're seeing. So SARMs, what are these kids actually buying and what are they?
So SARMs stands for Selective Androgen Receptor Modulator. Parents might see names like Osterin, which is also called MK2866, Ligandrol, which is LGD4033, or RAD140, which is called Testalone. There's also other ones out there like YK11. These usually come as little dropper bottles or even capsules.
And what do these actually do?
So these medications bind to the same receptors that testosterone binds to. So basically what they're doing is mimicking testosterone in the body. That might sound good, but here's the actual problem. When you take something like that, your body thinks you have enough testosterone. And so it will shut down its own production.
So they think they're boosting testosterone, but they're actually suppressing it.
That's exactly what's happening. In our bodies, we have feedback loops. And so if your body thinks you have enough of a hormone, it's going to turn down, and therefore you're not going to make that same hormone in the same amounts that you were making it before.
And what does that look like clinically?
So if you turn down your own testosterone production, what you can see is testicular shrinkage. And after you would stop taking that medication, you would continue to have that low testosterone for a period of time. And so you might see fatigue, mood changes. And one of the very scary things is potential fertility issues later on. Also, you might see liver injury or even acne.
And, a parent, I would say as a parent, usually what I've heard is that the parent will notice rapid muscle gain over a short period of time, like a few weeks to a few months, sudden acne and irritability, and then sometimes a crash where they seem really tired or down after stopping.
That's exactly
Would you agree
what
with that?
we would see. Absolutely. So again, all of these things are happening at an accelerated pace, right? If someone is working out, eating healthy, these changes, building muscle, getting lean might happen, but we know that it takes a while. These medications are accelerating all of these changes. So you're going to see those sudden changes.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about steroids because this is still happening too. And what's concerning is that some of these are being obtained online or through gym networks. So, Dr. Waldman, can you talk to us a little bit about testosterone injections?
Absolutely. So you might hear some names like Anavar, Winstrol, Dynabol, and even Trebnaline, which is actually a veterinary drug.
Wow. And what are the risks there?
So these are much stronger. So we're talking about potential risks of heart strain, liver damage, kidney issues, infertility, like we mentioned before, severe acne and hair loss, and of course, significant mood changes. And then when they're stopped, a lot of people can experience depression. So all of these risks are pretty scary.
Yeah. And parents would notice like a very rapid body transformation, maybe intense focus on the gym, irritability, and sometimes withdrawal or mood crashes. And that may be a sign actually that your child has started taking some of these. So, I think this is the part that I think parents don't really understand, that the other piece of this is that these boys may not be just taking one thing. They may be taking multiple things. So let's talk about stacking a little bit.
Exactly. So when they're taking more than one thing, just like you said, that's referred to as stacking. They take one drug and then they take another drug to potentially manage the side effects of the first one. And really, this can cause a lot of problems. So if they're taking something that increases testosterone or mimics it, then they take something else to block estrogen. That's when a different type of drug like anastrol or letrozole can come in. They also can be taking something like clomiphene or tamoxifen to try to restart their testosterone after a cycle. And sometimes even anti-androgens like spironolactone to adjust how their bodies can respond.
Yeah, so these boys are essentially trying to manage their own endocrine system without any medical supervision. And there are significant risks for that, like hormonal instability, bone health issues, blood clots, in some cases, vision changes, fatigue, and really long-term endocrine disruption. So this is very concerning for me as a mom and as an endocrinologist. I want to talk a little bit more about peptides because I have had quite a few patients coming to my office over the last year talking about peptides and discussing them with me. And let's talk about this because this is becoming very popular.
Absolutely. This is popular with the younger set, but also in the adult set for sure. I feel like we're hearing that term peptide on lots of different television shows and in the news all the time. A lot of times these are sold as small vials and require injection. And there's a whole host of ones you might hear about, including CJC 1295, EPC 157, and TB 500. The list goes on and on.
And what I've read is that what patients are trying to do with this is increase their own body's growth hormone, improve recovery, build muscle, and lose fat. Now, what concerns you the most about these?
I have many concerns, but certainly some of the most important ones is that we really don't have long-term safety data. We know that they affect hormone pathways, just as we had been talking about with the other supplements just now. And in this, it can increase IGF-1 and have potential impacts like possible tumor growth. We also see fluid retention, joint pain. And I would say one of my other major concerns is when you're buying these off the internet, there is no one overseeing what are you actually getting, right? And so you might believe in the website and what they market to you, but how do we know that what they're saying is actually what you're getting? That to me is one of the most scary things.
Absolutely. I mean, I see boys in the clinic who have bought these things online, and I've monitored their hormone levels and measured them. And their hormone levels sometimes are very, very high with regards to testosterone, to a point that I cannot even believe that they're high. But, from a parent perspective, parents, I would encourage you to look to, see if you see injection marks. Sometimes you can find vials or syringes at home or in their room, and sometimes just unusually fast recovery or body changes that just don't make sense to you. So really important to understand that. But Dr. Waldman, if you had to summarize the biggest issue here, what would you say?
The biggest issue is that these kids are experimenting with their hormones during one of the most critical developmental periods of their life without understanding what they're doing and without oversight.
Yeah, and from an endocrine perspective, this really affects everything like growth, puberty, fertility, metabolism, and their mental health. If a parent notices rapid muscle gain, should they be concerned?
I would say it depends on the timeline. If you're saying rapid, yes, you absolutely should be concerned. If it is gradual and your teen has talked to you about going to the gym, you notice them eating healthier, that sounds very normal. But if something is happening rapidly, yes, I would definitely be worried and talking to my teen openly about what is happening, what the potential side effects are about all of these things.
Yeah. And the other piece of this is that, these things are not always easy to detect on labs. Like I said, I have quite a few patients who have come to me and I've monitored their labs. And, sometimes it's really not easy to figure out what they've been taking, and the labs are not telling. And to be honest, sometimes they're not even telling me in the office what they're doing. And so I have to ask a lot of times and ask a lot of questions, and parents are not aware. So, I think for me, that has been the most scary piece of it. And I see it at home. I see it, in my own teenage son looking at some of this and talking to his friends about some of this. And I've become a little bit more vigilant at home, just, having these conversations, because I think it's very important for these teen boys to get the right type of information. But, Dr. Waldman, what's the biggest red flag that parents should pay attention to?
Sure. I think rapid physical changes combined with rapid mood or behavior changes that you're seeing, I think that should definitely put your antenna up as a parent that there's probably something more going on and you need to be talking with your teen or taking them to your pediatrician, pediatric endocrinologist to find out a little bit more.
Yeah, and how should a parent bring this up?
This is really hard, talking as a parent myself, but I think starting with curiosity and not judgment. Maybe saying something like, I've noticed some changes and want to understand what's going on. I want to work together with you. You do want to look healthier. Let's talk about ways that are healthy to do it. Maybe talking to a dietitian or a physical trainer, I think is a first step. But I definitely think trying not to be judgmental, which is hard, and starting with that curiosity.
Yeah, and this is really not a fringe issue. I mean, this is happening in regular teens, in good schools, or in sports programs, and in kids who seem completely normal on the surface. And the hardest part is that actually some of them don't even think they're doing anything dangerous. They don't think they're doing anything wrong. They think they're optimizing. and they think they're getting ahead, and they actually think that they're being healthy by helping their hormones, be optimized. And what they're actually doing is interfering with the most critical hormonal window of their lives, like you said, a time when their body's still developing, still maturing, and still setting the foundation for their future health. And I have seen things like very high, hematocrit, so their blood, tests change, which does put them at risk for blood clots and other, metabolic problems that their bodies have, as we discussed. And so this is not something that they should be buying off the internet and self-regulating.
And as parents, the goal here is not to panic or accuse as much as you might want to. It's to stay aware, stay observant, and stay connected. If something feels off, whether it's rapid physical changes, mood changes, or behaviors that don't quite add up, trust your instinct.
Yeah, and start the conversation early. And I think, what I have learned is, talking to other parents also, and just having them be aware, stay curious, really don't hesitate to bring in medical guidance if needed, because the earlier we catch this, the more we can protect growth, fertility, mental health, and long-term outcomes. So I think it's very important for us all as parents, and as for us as pediatricians, to be aware of this. If this episode helped you, share it with another parent. Even knowing that this exists and increasing awareness is really the first step in protecting our kids, and that's our goal. Thank you for listening to the Endo Kids Podcast. Of course, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us on our website, www.endokidsconcierge.com, or schedule an appointment if you have any concerns about this. We'd be happy to see your child and evaluate.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Endo Kids Podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more knowledge and a lot more confidence. If you have questions, stories, or topics you'd love us to cover, please send them our way. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to check out our website, www.endokidsconcierge.com, for free resources, guides, and more ways to connect. You're not alone on this journey. We're here to support you and your family every step of the way. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an update.